Mr. Chairman, in just 3.5 years, President Biden and his border czar, Kamala Harris, have allowed more than 7.6 million unvetted illegal aliens into the United States. That is the equivalent of adding an entirely new state, almost the size of Arizona, our 14th largest state with 9 congressional districts. Those not engaged in criminal activities are almost entirely destitute and are overwhelmingly our public schools, our hospitals, our food banks, our public housing and social services. This began the very first day of this administration, when Biden and Harris rescinded the Remain in Mexico policy, ordered construction on the border wall halted, and literally instructed ICE to stop enforcing court-ordered deportations. Today, ICE remains hogtied in discharging its duty to remove even criminal illegal aliens from our midst. Before they can do so, they're now required to first develop a full profile of the criminal and to identify mitigating circumstances, such as if the criminal has high blood pressure or is a caregiver. A former top ICE official told the Judiciary Committee that the Biden-Harris policies have made immigration enforcement more dangerous, more difficult to carry out, and less efficient overall. The flood of illegal mass migration at our southern border has thinned the ranks of ICE officers available to enforce laws within the interior because so many have been siphoned off to process illegals being allowed into our country. You know, when constituents ask me, how could this be happening to their communities? I have to remind them that if they voted for Biden and Harris, this is exactly what they voted for, and if that surprises them, they weren't paying attention. In 2019, Kamala Harris told the ACLU she would slash funding for immigration detention and close private immigration detention centers. And as ABC News has been forced to confess, Harris did in fact endorse taxpayer funding to provide transgender surgeries for illegal aliens detained in the United States. Americans are beginning to realize the severe danger to public safety posed by cities and states that refuse to notify ICE so that dangerous criminals can be turned over to them for deportation once they've served out their sentences, as the law requires. Instead, the woke left releases these criminals back onto our streets and into our communities to prey on new victims. Instead of ICE being able to take these criminals into custody while they're disarmed and in custody, ICE agents instead must track them down and confront them when they are armed and at large. This is the very essence of the sanctuary policies that so many Democrats, including Biden and Harris, have supported and facilitated. Although current law already prohibits jurisdictions from refusing to cooperate with federal immigration officials, jurisdictions controlled by leftist officials continue to do so. This bill changes that. The growing list of Americans victimized by criminal aliens released back onto our streets in defiance of federal law is truly appalling. According to ICE, Cook County, Illinois, saw law enforcement release 1,070 criminal aliens and immigration violators in fiscal year 2019, despite requests by ICE to notify the agency before their release from local custody. One of those criminals was a Mexican national who had been arrested for theft. After his release from custody, that illegal alien lured a 3-year-old girl into a McDonald's bathroom and sexually assaulted her. Had Chicago authorities cooperated with federal officials, that man, a convicted aggravated felon who previously had been deported, could have been in ICE custody and instead removed to Mexico. In January 2023, a 27-year-old illegal alien from Mexico was allowed to remain in the United States through the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, despite his arrest for domestic violence in New Jersey. Local law enforcement ignored an ICE detainer and released him, where he went on to murder his girlfriend and a married couple. Without this legislation, we should brace ourselves for what is to come. In 2019, Kamala Harris committed to ending ICE detainers. H.R. 5717 would prevent any jurisdiction from ever doing so again. Specifically, this bill renders sanctuary jurisdictions ineligible to receive certain taxpayer dollars that would bankroll illegal immigration in American communities. By denying certain federal funding to jurisdictions that prohibit or restrict their cooperation with federal immigration officials, The bill encourages sanctuary jurisdictions to end their anti-enforcement policies in favor of working with the Department of Homeland Security. Now, today, Democrats will present far-fetched hypotheticals about how Republicans want to strip funding from program after program. On the contrary, to continue to receive these funds, the jurisdiction would simply need to follow existing law. And isn't that what a nation of laws is all about? But it's absurd that a bill like this is even necessary. As we've seen time and time again, far-left jurisdictions would prefer to release dangerous criminal aliens back onto American streets than to deport them once they've served their sentence, as federal law requires. This bill helps end this dangerous and tragic absurdity. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.